Jill Dennis, Vice President of the Louisiana Victim Action Network. I just want to first thank Representative Landry. I thank you so much. We've been working on this so long, and I was cautioned a while back. I know that most of our jurisdictions do protect victims. I know that most of our victims across the state, many of them, feel like the courts and the services that are being provided are acceptable. However, there's many jurisdictions that are not. We have victims that, they just brought up the escape. It was 9.5 hours before a victim knew. And one of the descriptions of one of the escapees was they thought that's where he was going, straight to a victim, to hurt that victim, to make sure that that victim couldn't testify. I have just story after story. My occupation, I protect victims. And one of the stories that I have that's in my heart all the time is I'm on the phone with 911 because I have an offender at a location where the victim lives. I've already called local PD, but they didn't have a copy of the protective order. I had to send over a copy of the protective order. I had to send over all of the information that showed that this offender violated. And as I'm on the phone with 911, because this offender is at the victim's house, the victim doesn't call 911. She calls me. And she says, "Miss Jill, help me. Christian just set my house on fire." This is why we need a comprehensive online system that allows victims and our law enforcement agencies to know what is going on with a case, who the victims are, and make sure that our victims are protected. Many of our victims do not even have a knowledge of the criminal justice system. They never went to court for even a traffic ticket, and now they're thrown into this criminal world that they don't even know how to navigate. And our victim advocates, some of our victim advocates are not doing justice for our victims. So I do ask that you please support this bill and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. I'd like to speak, Elizabeth Hansard.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Hansard, and some of you might already know who I am. My son is Noah. He was the UNO student that was walking, minding his own business when he was in an armed robbery. Now he's paralyzed. I'm here to represent him. I'm here to represent victims that I've met on Magazine Street, in the French Quarter, wherever I get stopped. Victims are not being notified. We just saw what happened on Friday in New Orleans, and that is a macro example. We saw law enforcement not telling other law enforcement agencies what was going on. When I first heard about the breach, two of my son's alleged shooters are waiting trial. We're due to go in July. Didn't get a call, of course, they're busy. I actually had to call a reporter and say, hey. He said, Elizabeth, don't worry, they're not on the list. I said, when is the list going to be revealed? He said, we're working on it probably in 30 minutes. They had 9 hours to come to our house, and they could have shot my son. He's the primary witness. He's the primary victim. The case would have been weakened. We're traumatized. I'll be honest to you, when the door rings at my house, I'm worried who's standing at my door if I don't recognize them. That is how we live. Noah also had to endure an ankle monitor being cut off. His shooter was put out on bond. He cut his ankle monitor off. He was on the loose for 4 hours. How did we find out, you might wonder? Well, apparently somebody left a note on Jason Williams' desk. And Mr. White walked into the office and noticed the note on the desk. And he knew me, and he knew my number, and he called me. Had he not walked into Jason's office, that note could have sat on the desk for who knows how long. That is not the way victims and witnesses and anybody else in the system should be notified. We need to get better. We need to get better. People deserve to be safe. And we just saw on Friday what many victims have been saying for years. Our Victim Bill of Rights is a great bill with no teeth. There's nothing enforceable about it. And so I've been working tirelessly now for 3 years asking that we please look at the Victim's Bill of Rights, and this is one component that we can shore up, and we need to. And I thank you all for your time very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No questions. President would like to speak in support. Erica Peterson.
Hello. My name is Erica Peterson, and today I'm choosing to have the courage to share my story of the incidents with my ex-fiancé, Christian King. Have you ever stared at a barrel of a gun? Well, that's exactly what happened to me on Saturday, June 11, 2022, when Christian assaulted me with a deadly weapon in New Orleans. I was ultimately able, during the conversation, he pulled a gun out directed to my head. I was able to have the wherewithal to call 911 secretly and to have police come and save my life. Also, during that time, I was able to convince him to put the gun into his car so I could also save my life. Christian King then went on to harm another victim. Months after my incident, he burns down his ex-girlfriend and child's house under the supervision of an ankle monitor. Without the ASAP monitoring company's swift action, the damage could have been worse, her lives lost. In theory, GPS monitoring with real-time alerts should enhance victim safety by providing timely warnings if offender violates the protective order. Christian King has allegedly violated his protective order I have in place when I witnessed a man in a ski mask that mirrors his body on the frame of my patio in November 2024. I immediately called 911 after recognizing him in fear of my safety. He had no ankle monitor on during the alleged incident, which the reason for zero supervision during that time is now under active investigation. Furthermore, I and his second victim were never alerted during that real time to a defective ankle monitor device, despite having protective orders for 5 days. Christian King has a well-demonstrated pattern of violating restraining orders and is a danger to his victims and the public. If Christian King was monitored appropriately, there would have been immediate evidence in my second incident that he violated his protective order. Victims have a right to protection from immediate harm in GPS monitoring. It should have prevented an alleged second incident if stricter laws were in place to have standard supervision operating procedures. Companies utilizing GPS monitoring should have victim-centric protocols such as clear communication channels, regular updates on offender locations, and access to support services. Additionally, law enforcement agencies should receive adequate training in responding to GPS alerts, how to acquire data, and support on to how to effectively manage offender monitoring protocols and programs. There needs to be increased accountability when it comes to the supervision and monitoring of offenders while on GPS monitoring. Very little is in place to hold companies accountable of timely notification. To ensure the victim's safety and provide a sense of security, notifications should be immediately communicated to those in need to assist the victims, such as law enforcement, the DA's office, and courts. Communication gaps of violations occur too frequently, and actions are not taken in a reasonable time frame, making GPS monitoring useless and ineffective if the proper reporting standards are not followed correctly. There is no excuse. As a domestic violence survivor, I invite you to protect us by passing stronger GPS monitoring standards to hold companies responsible to monitor offenders correctly with harsher consequences if failing to comply with the law. Victims are worthy of protection from violent criminals during one of the most vulnerable periods of our lives and deserve to not live in constant fear. It is up to you to pass HB 479 to ensure the victims receive notifications. Thank you all for your time.
Vice Chairman Hughes, is your question for the witness?
Yeah, it's just a comment, Mr. Chairman. To all of the witnesses that came and testified today, I just want to say on behalf of my colleagues, thank you all. It took a lot of courage. It took a lot to come to the table and share your story. And ma'am, yours in particular, I remember reading with just great dismay, last year when that story aired. And for you to be here today, it just means so much to all of us. So thank you all for coming to testify.
Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple more cards here. President in support but not wishing to speak. Dwight Hudson with Right on Crime. Tom Costanza with the Louisiana Conference of Catholic Bishops. And Jacqueline Lindley, Germany, representing herself.